Could you share with us what was Iran like before the revolution?
Iran was going through a major transformation. The Shah, he was modern and he wanted to make Iran a very, very modern country. So he introduced reforms, equality of men and women, rights for the people, universal education. It was lucky to have lived through that because you don't read it in a history book.
You lived it.
You lived it.
People of Baha'i faith, they didn't try to convert them, but they were just eliminating them. Is that what was happening?
My brother and Christine's father, they were both assassinated.
He was shot?
Yes.
Baha'is are ready to sacrifice their lives rather than deny their beliefs.
How did you decide to bring the experience of a French patisserie to India?
Our son, he was looking for good, high-quality French bakery product. Once he came and said, why don't we start a business? The French embassy lent us for 1 week the kitchens of the French embassy to do some tests. We decided to start the Project L'Opéra. The rest of it is history.
When you started it, did you think that the Indian palate was ready for this taste of a French bakery?
We have created a company with value. My interest is really to create also something which remain beyond the product itself.
Ease of doing business in India and the ease of living in India.
Anybody who thinks that it is easy to live and prosper in America, they don't understand what they are talking. It's very difficult to make a difference in any of the Western countries. Whereas India, if you are reasonably hardworking, if you are honest, if you don't want to take shortcuts, this is the El Dorado. We want to create the value in India. We are training Indians. Sometimes we say we are an Indian company with a French heart.
Nice, with French heart. This episode is powered by easemytrip.com. Namaste Jai Hind, you're watching or listening to another edition of the NI podcast with Smita Prakash. Many of you in your social media feeds would have read about success stories of Indians who have left India about 10 to 15 years ago and become millionaires and billionaires. And then there are stories of third-generation billionaires who don't want to live in India and are choosing to open family offices in tax-friendly countries. Today we meet with Christine Samandari-Hakim and Kazem Samandari, a couple who are not Indian by birth but decided to live and work here. Kazem Samandari was working with several multinational companies before he and his wife decided to open an authentic French bakery and tea house in Delhi. Then they expanded. Christine Samandari is French and Iranian by birth. Of course, there are many foreigners who live in India and work here and have made it their home. Why do I have the Samandaris on my podcast? Because they are an inspiration as a couple. And I also wanted to know what led them to believe that Delhi and now rest of India understands the experience of eating at a French cafe. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Kazem, for coming on the podcast. Welcome to the show, even though I have stuff out here which is not from your bakery. But in spite of that, I'm so happy that you are here. And I have your permission to use your first names in the show.
Yes,
Thank you.
Please
Thank
do.
you so
Thank
much.
you for having us. Thank you so much.
Thank
So,
you.
Christine, I'm going to begin with you. I want to know your story about where you were born, where did you go to school, and when did you meet Kazem?
Well, in fact, I am half Iranian, half French. My father was an Iranian professor at university and doctor. So I was born in Tehran, in Iran. And my mother was a French artist, French painter. And she was raised, of course, in France, and they met each other in France, in Brittany, in Bretagne, and because my father studied in France, so they met each other and they went back to Iran. And I was born in Iran, but my childhood, yes, was in Tehran, but in a more francophone environment. There was a lot of, admiration from my father to the French culture, etc. So then, anyway, my childhood I spent my childhood in Tehran. Then we went to New
You
York.
spoke Farsi?
I do. Not very
Because
well.
your childhood was
Not
there,
ve-
right?
Yes, I was in a French school, and I
Oh,
said
okay.
my environment was more francophone.
Right.
But I do. Yes, I do a little. Not very well, but I
She's
do.
too modest.
I know.
Yes, she speaks quite well.
No, and
yeah.
in fact, I'm also. I used to write a little and read also a little. So that's
Wow, okay.
yes.
Okay.
And I remember even when we left Iran and we went to New York because there was exchange of professor. University. My father was at the Columbia University, and I used to write each week to my grandmother. So I was writing in Persian, and we were joking with my mother and brother. And we said that I know how to write. My mother used to speak better Farsi than us, and my brother read better than us. So three of us, we could do.
So the communication happened.
Communication happened.
Okay, nice.
And then I came to France also with my parents. So my I will say college the schools were more in Paris in a Catholic school, and then I studied in Paris. I studied sociology and anthropology, and it was extremely interesting. And especially that was at the time of '68, the student revolution, etc. So it was a very interesting period.
Oh, okay.
I studied sociology. I had a doctorate in psychosociology and MA in anthropology and sociology. So these years were really very, very interesting.
Okay.
And then I went for a how do you say that, we call it winter school, like
A camp.
like a
winter
camp, because we are Baha'is. So I went to the winter camp in Switzerland, and there I met Kazem.
Right.
And then so we
Love at first sight?
love at first sight.
You
Exactly.
don't believe, but it is
It
really. It was on the spot. On the spot.
True.
It was. If you read in novels and this can happen, but I can tell you it can. And the moment I put my gaze on Christine, I knew she was the person.
Wow.
The rest of it is just getting the confirmation of that.
And it was reciprocal. So
Yes,
Okay.
And after that, so of course Kazem came, because Kazem was studying in Zurich at Polytechnic of Zurich, and I was still finishing my doctorate in Paris. So he came very often at that time by train in the night, etc. He arrived in the morning, and he came to one of the cafes, and so we met each other for, I think, 8-9 months of, as we said here, courtesy? No,
Courting, yes.
courting period.
So did he come and meet your parents? Was your mom okay with you dating him?
Yes, they were.
Okay,
they
they
were.
were.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, they were.
Yeah, and
No,
also
they're
that he's Iranian would have worked in his favor, right?
In fact, it was not by tradition, because also as I am a sociologist and anthropologist, even I thought I will maybe married with an African, with a totally another culture. So it was really not by tradition or because he was Iranian or because he was Baha'i. It was really him and me. So
Okay,
it
that's
was not
sweet.
because of that. But of course, it helps. I'm sure it helped.
If I may add one
Sure.
detail, this year is the 50th anniversary of our marriage.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
that happened in 1975. So
75,
this year it will be
exactly.
50 years.
God bless.
Yes.
How nice. How nice. So what were you doing when in Iran before you went to Switzerland, before you went and
So
met?
my story is a little more complicated. So I was born also in Iran, but my parents left Iran when I was 4 years old. That's back in 1955. We went to Turkey. And unfortunately, a few months after our arrival, my father passed away. We stayed 6 years in Iran. So I started schooling at the French school, again like Christine, in Turkey. I went to French school. That's the first language that I learned how to write and to read. And
Why
then-
French school, if I may ask?
That's a good question. I think this was one of the best schools that was available in the city of Izmir. And they had all the way from kindergarten up to high school. And also, I must say, there is one more reason. As Christine mentioned, in the case of her father and my father studied also in France. So we were very Francophile, they loved the French culture, etc. So I think that was a first reaction that my mother had, because by that time my father was no more alive. So, and that's how it started. In 1961, we went back to Iran for a few years, and then I definitely left Iran in 1968. Okay. So the same year that Christine started her studies, then I went also to Europe, first to Germany for some time to learn German, and then I studied at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, as it's known, Polytechnic of Zurich. And then that faithful Christmas of 1974, where we met each other. And from that moment on, it's been not only a marital relationship, but a true partnership in all joys and challenges of life, as it is normal. So it has been, I really want to say that Christine is the best thing that happened to me in life. Yes.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's so nice. But both of you left Iran before the revolution. Could you share with us what was Iran like before the revolution? And did you ever go back after that? Whoever wants to go first.
Okay, I go and then you fill the gaps. All right. So after 1968 for me, and also for Christine.
You can keep having your coffee.
Thank you so much. After 1968, I did go almost, not every year, but almost every year. Sometimes due to work at the university or exams, I couldn't go. But I went for something like a week or two, always to visit my mother, who continued to live in Iran. Okay. So the contact was there until the last visit, which was in 1977. The Shah was still there, but you could feel the beginnings of the revolution. Now, what was happening? Iran was going through a major transformation. We know that the Shah, he was modern, and he wanted to make Iran a very, very modern country. So he introduced reforms, which were called White Revolution. The White Revolution, which included something like equality of men and women, rights, the rights for the people, universal education. Actually, even the soldiers, as part of their military service, they were sent to villages to work on literacy programs. And they were modern and modernizing industry, building roads, infrastructure, etc. The whole thing was also accelerated after 1974 with the increase with the first oil shock that came, that, you know, the revenues of the country multiplied, exploded. So the country was in full revolution. Evolution. Before it became into a revolution. However, it is true that there were the country was developing with different speeds. There was one part of society which was modernizing very, very rapidly. And they were also accepting Western norms, like freedoms, like, I don't know, what may be very normal here, like dressing, singing, partying, and those kind of things. But there was also a large majority of the population that were rural mainly. They were much more conservative, and they were still under the shock of this transformation. So these tensions were there. Plus, with the huge amount of oil revenue which came into the country, inflation skyrocketed. And inflation usually hurts the lower strata of the society much more than the other ones. True. So those who were more rural, who were, let's say, less modern, who did not have access to that development, they felt totally left behind. So the germs of the revolution started growing in the late 60s and during the 70s. And the rest of it is history. You had to have a figurehead like Ayatollah Khomeini, who managed to coalesce all the forces together. And it is true, the last time we visited Iran in 1977, you could feel unrest. Now, not only in the lower strata of the society, but also some of the more reformed or modern parts of society who wanted even more freedoms, who wanted more opportunities. And it is true, because this is history, there was also rampant corruption. Nothing could be done, nothing of real meaning could happen if there were not some relations with the court and with the members of the family and relations, etc. But this we know from other countries as well. So then you had some of the people who were very, very educated, who could not have access to these relations. So there was a true, when the revolution happened, it was a really popular revolution. And people wanted that. And there was, perhaps that was one of the few times or last time that there was a democratic consultation of the population. There was a referendum with Ayatollah Khomeini, and I think something like 97% of the population they voted for the abolition of the monarchy. So this was not forced. At least this one referendum was a very democratic referendum. But once it was done, what happened after that was really not democratic, because then power was concentrated in the hands of a few, and all opposition was systematically eliminated and taken away from those. But it was, excuse me if I speak too long, but
No.
It is, in a sense, sometimes I feel lucky to have lived through that, because it's not, you don't read it in a history book.
You
but
lived it.
You lived, yes.
Did your mother stay back?
So my mother, luckily, as Christine mentioned briefly, we are Baha'is. And the Baha'is, unfortunately, under the current regime, are very, very, very heavily persecuted. And my family also, because they were known as Baha'is. And we convinced my mother, just in the early days of revolution, as long as still Baha'is could travel overseas, to leave Iran. And she came and joined us.
In Turkey?
No. In the
Switzerland.
meantime, we were in Switzerland. Turkey was just in the from 1955 to 1961. Okay. So she came and joined us. But basically, a large part of my family are Swiss.
Okay.
They went, my sister had married in 1972. We all studied in Switzerland, so she came and joined us. We were lucky we could save her. But in our family, we had two tragedies, two very deep tragedies because of their faith. My brother, but first Christine's father, they were both, Christine's father, who was, as Christine mentioned, a very respected and loved professor of medicine, he was assassinated because of his... I don't know if you want to elaborate a little. No, I can mention, because he was one of the leaders of the Baha'i community, and he was known, and he could have not been arrested because there would have been protests. He basically trained almost really 80% of all doctors were his students in Iran. They would have not. So he was very dastardly assassinated in his practice in 1981.
He was shot?
Yes.
Actually, it was during the Iran-Iraq war, and there was curfew. Somebody called that it's an emergency. He accepted to receive after the curfew. So he was alone. There was nobody in the streets,
no secretary, no staff. So he was alone, and the person came and he was shot.
And the personnel found him a couple of hours later when he was not coming back from his...
and your mother was there too?
No, fortunately, my mother was with us in France and Switzerland. Also the same, we all asked her to come just few months before, because my father was assassinated in January, and I think she came in November, although it was difficult because it was the war between Iran and Iraq. But we convinced her to come out, and she came by bus, etc.
So who, did you get a phone call saying your father has been killed?
Yes, it was true. In fact, the family, Kazem's family uncle.
Yes, so at that time my brother was alive.
Was still there.
And then he called. He gave us the news of the assassination of my father-in-law.
So people of Baha'i faith, they didn't try to convert them, but they were just eliminating them. Is that what was happening?
Well, I must say something. The Baha'i faith is something you live. It's very deep in you.
Yeah.
And Baha'is, if they believe in their faith, they don't just change or convert to save their lives. So it's a very, very good question that you ask. Most of the time, the Baha'is who were assassinated or they were put on trial, they were given the choice to change their religion, to convert to save their lives. But it is so profound. If I may say, my brother, and then I will say that because that's related to your question, my brother, one other thing that was done by the current regime, they forbid Baha'i youth to attend universities unless they would declare that they are Muslims. So in the entrance forms of universities, there is a religion column, which is very different from India. When you get an Indian visa, I got now, when you go, among the choice, you have Baha'i. Oh. Yes, so you can cite you are Baha'i, you are Zoroastrian, etc. In Iran, they give you only it's Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, and Zoroastrianism. These are the 4 choices you have. Nothing else is accepted. And if you don't cross, for Baha'is, this is their faith. They are ready to give their lives for it. So they don't play that game. So now what I wanted to say, my brother, he was helping organize what it's called the Baha'i Institute for Higher Education, which is an education. This was like, it sounds negative, but it's like an underground university. Okay. It's a self-help university of the Baha'i community. So Baha'is who had degrees, they would teach young Baha'is at homes, online or in small groups. You know, somebody who had a doctor in chemistry, he would teach chemistry, etc.
Amazing. That's God's own work.
Yes. And my brother, he was one of those who was facilitating this university. So you would call, like academic member of that. And they were also facilitating correspondence courses with universities in United States, in Europe. And by the way, quite a few Baha'is came also to study in India. There were a lot of Baha'is who studied in Pune and in other universities. So my brother was doing that. And then he was arrested once, and then he was released after some time, and then he was re-arrested in 1992. And I don't go to the details. There was no news about him during 14, 15 days because it was during the New Year holidays. And after that, when his wife went to ask what happened, you asked my husband to come and see you to the police station. Where is he, etc. The only thing they did, they gave him his briefcase, empty briefcase, his glasses, and one small piece of paper, which we still have. It was like, torn out of the school notebook. And my brother had, it was addressed to his wife and children. He said, "Please forgive me. I could not deny my faith."
Oh my God.
And so he was asking forgiveness that he left them, and he did not deny his faith, and there was a few words for me and my sister to take care of his family, etc. So this goes to the point that Baha'is are ready to sacrifice their lives rather than deny their beliefs, because it's not just a badge, it's very profound.
Can you tell me a little bit about what it means to you, the Baha'i faith?
The Baha'i faith, yes. In fact, Baha'i faith has the main message is unity of word, unity of people, of religions, that we are all from the same source, the same God. And there is a spiritual, of course, messages of the evolution of the soul, and that we are here in this world to develop our qualities and virtues, and that there is also many social principles like equality of men and women, of science and equilibrium of science and religion, of finding oneself the truth. So it's this consciousness of the society together with the development of one's soul, of one's spiritual life.
And
in summary.
Yeah, nice. And this thing of never wanting to let go of religion, is it a way of life, or is it are there parameters around the Baha'i faith that tells you how to lead your life? What is it? How does it work?
Yes. You know, sometimes people say, "Are you a Baha'i?" Because Baha'i, it sets very, very high ideals and standards. So I have not seen anybody, any normal human being, can say, "Oh, I am a real Baha'i," because it's a very high standards.
Okay.
But Baha'is, if they are honest, they say we are striving towards this goal. And this is both a personal and a collective societal goal. And it's a way of life. It is a way of life where you feel both a personal spiritual responsibility towards yourself, but then also towards your environment and the society. And the Baha'is are called, there are a few other elements. For example, one of the things is the Baha'is are categorically forbidden to engage in any form of violence. The Baha'is do not participate in any confrontational and controversial political activities. They assume roles if they can serve the society, but they don't do party politics because they believe in the unity of the entire society. So it is they are called to contribute to an ever-advancing civilization. They are loyal to all governments. So if a Baha'i lives in India, 100% loyal to the rules and the laws of the country. They are loyal citizens. So there are some principles that they try to educate both the individual and the society to come to a higher level. So I don't know if I answered your question.
When you were talking about the fact that Baha'i don't engage in violence, which is so true, because in our personal story, I mean, when we heard about my father, the assassination of my father, we lived in Switzerland at that time. And, well, they were they interviewed me in the TV about what happened, etc. And just the next day, there was a Swiss publisher, editor, who contacted me and asked me to write a book. So, of course, in this situation, I was far of thinking of writing a book, but he pushed me very much, etc. So I wrote a book, and the name is The Baha'is, or Victory over Violence. Oh. So, which was the same message that, of course, we are extremely sad of what had happened, dramatic situation, but we will not engage in reacting with violence, but we try to construct a world where we can live in harmony and peace. So that was
if I may bring my interaction with Baha'is would be that the first was, of course, the Lotus Temple.
Yes.
And then when I got into the workspace, and of course I've been to the one in Israel, but when at the workplace, I was making a documentary when I was just 23 years old. That's all. And I'd gone to Bangkok, and I said, I want to meet with, I was probably a little older, 93, I think it was. And so I was interviewing some Indian Muslims. And then somebody said that, okay, we're going to this person's house. He's a very noted Muslim, Indian Muslim origin, but second generation, has been living out here. So we went out there. I said that, no, first let's eat together. My family is here. So there were 3 sons or daughters, sons and daughters-in-law and everybody. And then they took out this large plate. It was communal eating, everybody eating together. And during the conversation, I got to know that they are Baha'is. So, but the person who took me inside, said that, oh, very noted Muslim, Indian Muslim.
Indian
Archer. So, so when the cameras were on, it became, so I was like, now how do I move this conversation? So then I started reading up a little bit about, the Baha'i community in Thailand and what they have done. And then subsequently, of course, during work, like when we were talking about our current Prime Minister, Mr. Modi's connection with the Baha'is, the Baha'i community in Gujarat is very closely associated with the BJP and with Mr. Modi. So these things came up. You get to know more about. Otherwise, it's such a small community, so close. They don't talk about it much. Very content.
Yes.
That's the idea one
actually,
has.
It's always, as I mentioned, it's a work in progress. I would never say, oh yes, the Baha'is have reached this or that. But as part of their beliefs and their teachings, Baha'is are invited to act rather than to talk about it.
I see.
Or as you say in English, to walk the talk, which makes things much more difficult.
Okay.
Speaking about something.
So when you speak to your children, are your children also, are you born as Baha'is, or do you?
In fact, Baha'is, there is no
Baptism.
Baptism like in Christianity, or we are not automatically Baha'is.
Okay.
And the parents has also the duty to teach to their children different religions. So this is also part of the education, to know about the other religions and the principle of the fact that we choose oneself our religion. For example, myself, my mother was Christian, Catholic, and my father was Baha'i. So I was raised in both religions. And after some times I became Baha'i because I saw this question of unity of the different religions, etc. So I declared Baha'i. So our children the same. We try at least to give them a sense of the different religions, and they became both of them, yes, Baha'is.
Nice. But when you see what is happening in Iran, is there any linkages you still feel, or was that over because it was such a violent history, and both of you got affected by that violence? So did you kind of cut your ties off completely, or does it still feel that there's a pull towards Iran?
Yeah. So, to come back to your first question, what was Iran for you? For me, still, my love for Iran, for the population, for my childhood, for our house, the warmth of my family, Iranian family, who are extremely peaceful and nice, and we have still very good friends in Iran. Not in Iran now, they are outside also, but some members of the family. So this connection and love for the country is there. So of course we love it, and it's more emotional, than, and we travel to not think of the I will say of the negative of what happened in our life, but try to overcome it.
Okay. And for you, do you see that? I mean, you read a lot. Everybody knows about that. You read a lot. You know a lot about history, about current affairs. So I'm sure the perspective is there for both of you. But do you feel your country, or your original country, the country of your birth, calling you back at times?
If the circumstances permit, I would not hesitate to share whatever experience I have with the country where I was born. So my love is absolutely intact. Recently, one of the Iranian diplomats who knew about our business activities, etc., was telling me, why don't you do l'opéra in Iran? I said, I would like to do it, but I don't think they will let me do it. And he said, and then he said, because he knew we were Baha'is, he said, perhaps now it's not the right time. So for me, it's a little more complicated. I feel emotionally, and my sentiments and my feelings are oriental. So if you go deep, I like the same things, qualities that you have in India: hospitality, love for family, this warmth, etc. So this is distinctly
Oriental,
Oriental. Then my way of thinking. Because I was raised also, I went to French school. It's very Cartesian. It is very logical. This is quite French. And this is the country which opened its arms and gave us our citizenship and really gave us the shelter, the place where we could now call home. But then there's also a third dimension. Since I was trained in a Germanic and Swiss German environment, my work ethics and my way of work is more Germanic. So it makes a combination of Oriental, Iranian, French, and German. So if I would analyze myself, so that's what I would feel. But there is no doubt that we love Iran. And, historically, we know it has happened to almost all countries. There are ups and downs. So we want to see these conditions because it is not reciprocal. We love no matter who is in power. And we would just like Iranians want to live as peaceful citizens and help contribute to the development of the country. They are not at all engaged in wanting to change the regime. Nothing. If this is the will of the people of Iran, so be it. But they should also allow Baha'is to live peacefully and to contribute their part to the development of the country.
I couldn't agree with you more, totally. So now both of you are such global citizens. You've spoken about that part of your life. Now I want to know about the India part. How did India happen to the two of you?
Yes. So I was in Paris. We were in Paris. I was, in fact, heading the Office of Public Information about Baha'i International Community in Paris. And at that time, I was coordinating many interesting educational and social projects in Europe. But at that time, the office closed, so I was more free to leave Paris. And Kazem was, for his profession, traveling a lot in Asia, especially in Japan and other countries. And our son was in Paris, so our life was in Paris. And after some time, my daughter and son-in-law and our grandchild, who was at that time 2 years, decided also to leave France, and they wanted to have another experience of life. And my son-in-law was with Mackenzie. So they decided to come to India, and he worked for McKinsey in India, in Delhi. And so, of course, we were happy for them, but we were very much missing our children, especially our grandson. And we were just talking very informally, maybe one day we can come to India. And then my daughter once called us, and she said that the apartment right below their apartment is free. And the owner, the landlord, said that if your parents are interested to come, she said, okay, I will ask them. And then he said, but you have only 2 hours to decide because because
Indian landlords are very famous.
because I have somebody else. So my daughter, we had a conference call because I'm from Japan. My daughter and son-in-law in Delhi, my son and myself in Paris, and my daughter said there is this opportunity, and Kazem said, do you want to go to India? I said, wow, that will be fantastic. He said, okay, so let's go. So we decide in 5 minutes, I will say, to
relocate to India.
To India. Of course, it takes few months to do the shifting, and I had to close the office, etc. So this came a few months, but then we shift, and we went with my mother, who was at that time 95 years.
Wow.
And
at 95, she decided to move.
She came with us, and she was absolutely very, very happy. She loved India. She loved discovering the country. So that's how we came to India.
That's such a lovely story. When I did the introduction, I was talking, I'd just done an interview, a podcast with a person who's written a book. And he's Dr. Sanjay Baru. He was media advisor.
Yes, I'm reading his book right
his
now.
Book, yes,
that's about his book. Yes.
So I did that interview, and it's about Indians who are, he says seceding, who are leaving the country, opening offices outside the country who are global in the sense that they went to study abroad, and when they come back, they're third generation Indian business families. They don't like to want to stay here. They want that international experience. They have left. Yours is the story other way around of expats who've made India their home. So I wanted to know, how did La Opera, how did the idea come? How did you decide to stay here and work here and bring the experience of a French patisserie to India? Do you know, before I let you answer that, I have to tell you that when La Opera began, my first reaction was that, oh, this is like when La Meridian opened.
Yes.
Nobody calls it La Meridian. They call it Meridian.
Meridian. Yes.
It came during the Asian Games, the first Asian Games, and everybody just calls it Meridian. And who will say La Meridian? It's like, it's not going to happen. And when La Opera opened, I said, why are they calling it La Opera? It's never going to years ago. But yes, go ahead. How did it happen?
Yes.
So tell me your story. So how did you decide?
The first part Christine said. So then we decided to be here just to be close to our children. I continued to travel. I was
And my granddaughter also was born here. So
yes,
that's
your granddaughter. So now in the meantime,
link.
they were 4.
Yeah.
My offices and my residence was in other parts. I was mainly in Sydney, Tokyo, and Hong Kong. And I was residing also there.
Singapore, right?
In Singapore. That was my residence and everything. But I would spend about 10 days, 15 days sometime. I would come and visit the family here. So then at exactly that same time, our son was finishing his studies. And as part of his business school diploma, he had to spend 6 months overseas and to write a report. And he came to India. He interned with the Usha company, the household, the fans, etc. And during these 6 months, he was looking for good, high-quality French bakery products and Viennese and breads. And he sensed that, yes, there were some products in 5-star hotels, but you had to go inside the 5-star hotel, and the shape was good, but the quality, that's a different story. So he had the idea, once he came and said, why don't we start a business doing that? Now, nobody in our family is baker or pastry chef. So I'm an electronics engineer. Our son had a business degree. Christine is a sociologist.
Is a doctor, is a PhD in...
It's totally
daughter, lawyer.
But I must say that I had worked at that time in over 60 different countries. I knew something about business, what you need to do, how to prepare a business plan, etc. So we engaged during almost 1.5 years in studying the market and going through all details. Actually, at one point of time, the French embassy lent us for 1 week the kitchens of the French embassy to do some testing with Indian locally available raw materials.
French chef.
We had hired a French chef, etc. So I know exactly the date. On the 31st of December 2009, we decided to start the project L'Opéra. And because I know the date, because from 1st of January 2010, the prices of equipment would go up 6%. So we just placed the purchase order in 2009. And the rest of it is history. We went from one outlet. We started inside the French embassy. We still operate a L'Opéra inside the French embassy. Then in the golf course in Gurgaon, DLF Golf, and then our first high street was in Khan Market, the shop which is still our flagship store, and then ever since it developed. It has been, I have had, this is for me my 6th startup, and I have been in really very, very different areas. At the beginning, I was teaching. Then I was involved in feasibility studies for nuclear power plants. Now we produce croissants. But I must say, this is the sweetest part of the career that I have had, because you can just bring joy and happiness to people.
Yes.
Nobody, nobody can be unhappy unless you don't provide good products. But we try not to.
No, I'm
But it's
completely
true.
biased. I have never walked out of your patisserie and seen anybody not happy with what they have. It's service with a smile, and it's enjoying the food. And that's the entire French bakery experience,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
To
yes.
take back something feeling happy about the product. And I mean, I'm not saying it's just about a bakery. That is what one looks for, even if I enter for chole bhature, or
Yes.
if I'm going to, just a coffee shop or whatever I go to. If it's a happy zone, I'm sitting with people who are having engaging in conversations. I gently want to sit there, watch the world go by while I sip my coffee and have a
Coffee.
croissant, or I might just have something just small to eat but feel happy.
Yes.
And
It's
that's true. That's true. That
Yeah.
this gives us much encouragement. In our life, as Kazem said, we did a lot of things in education, social, and profession, etc. Many, many
Areas.
things. But with this l'opéra, we feel that the people are really happy. I mean, guest or customer or whatever, they are really happy. So this happiness gives us also the courage to continue. And so I'm so happy to hear that you have also the same
So ingredients.
experience.
I want to ask you about ingredients. Was it difficult initially, and is it easier now? And how did you plan to import it or locally source it? What did you do?
Kazem can
Shall I
better
say? Yes.
respond.
This is a complex question, and it is an ongoing question. It's not something that we could solve, but we had some principles. First principle was that we would never compromise on quality. The second principle was that if anything was produced and sourced in India, we would go first for that. Because we came here not to export French products into India. We wanted to create something French in and with India. And we know India is so resourceful. So answering your question, yes, we started, and the time we started, we were using Indian flour. We were using whatever was available here, the sugar or some of the fruits which were available. Then there are some elements that you couldn't have at that quality. For example, in the initial years, we didn't import because that's a different business. We were using imported butter. We were using imported cream, and we were using imported chocolate. Now, if you look from we are talking about 2011. Now we are here, 2025. For example, a French company is now producing the very high quality butter in India. So, and it is almost 1/3 of the cost of imported. So you must be out of your mind to import butter. Yes, it may be 2% or 3% higher quality, but what we have, French products produced in India, are absolutely satisfactory, and they are very good. Or, for example, flour. Indian flour is perfect. The challenge of India in this area, and I share when I am asked by people in the ministries or in different areas, the challenge is the storage. It's the silos. You see, at the beginning of the season, Indian flour is perfect. But then as you move into the season, after 10 months, 11 months, etc., the humidity, the gluten content, etc. So I hope one day, if that part of it... So with flour is a mix. We use Indian flour in the early season, then we have to use some imported flour in order to have consistency.
Okay.
Chocolate, India has not yet come in terms of industrial chocolate products. So our chocolates come from Belgium. These are Belgian chocolates. In terms of cream, we have a mixed situation. There are some Indian brands that are really good. And we can use their cream for products where, for example, you have chocolate and the chocolate overwhelms. If you want, even if there is a very slight taste or smell that remains in the Indian cream, you still smell a little farm. So if products are very delicate, that is not good. So we use a mixed, for some products we use imported cream, for the other products we use. But our commitment is, to the extent possible, Indian products. We want to create the value in India.
Yeah.
We are training Indians. And we want, sometimes we say we are an Indian company with a French heart.
Nice, with French heart. Okay.
It's a,
Yes, I know what the French hearts are. Yes, it's very interesting because in my childhood, bakery products in India really, I mean, like if you moved out of Delhi or Bombay or something, and you went into smaller towns, the pastries and the cakes with these lurid colors and it after a couple of hours it would literally wilt like a flower. It would just wilt, and it was the cream, and of course we didn't have refrigeration, all that good refrigeration, so the patisseries were, after a couple of hours their own products would go bad. So they would shut down because of that problem. When you started it, did you think that the Indian palate was ready for this taste of a French bakery? Did you think that?
It's a wonderful question. It's a great question. As I mentioned to you, we did in the initial phase when we were preparing to start L'Opéra, we did also focus groups. What we did, we produced French bakery and pastry products, and we invited expats, we invited Indians to come and to taste and tell us what they thought about it and how much we could charge for it, because there is also a
price element.
So we found that there was a sufficient market to start the business. But then it took us, and it takes us still. Now we just started our 15th year of operation. We started in 2011, so 14 years were completed in March 2025. We are the 15th year. We want to take very small credit of having familiarized at least the palate of the customers in Delhi with what a real croissant is. And then it's the question is always more complicated. It's never yes. You see, when we say the Indian palate, but the Indian palate is India is white, it's brown, it's broad. And then you have many Indians. You have global Indians. You have Indians who have traveled abroad. You have Indians who have never went out and read about things, watch Amélie in Paris, etc. Eat her croissant, etc. So there was curiosity. Those Indians who had traveled overseas, they have gone to France or other countries. They know what a real croissant is.
Yes.
It has to have layered. It has to be crunchy. It is not just a bread in the shape of croissant. So, those people over the years increase. And
I'm hungry now.
And that justified that now we went in Delhi alone, in this area, we went from 1 outlet to 18 outlets. Another 4 or 5 are under construction. So the taste evolved, even in the last 15 years. Those millions of Indians who travel to Europe and other parts of the world, once they had a good croissant, when they come back, they want to have it again.
Yes.
So those are traveled Indians. Then you have Indians who have lived abroad. Then you have young generations who are curious to discover. So the answer to the question is the palate is also evolving. And this helps us, obviously.
And there is the palette, and then what we try at least to do is also to have this experience of going in a little spot of Paris or France, with the decoration, with the art on the walls, etc. So this is also, we had this feedback from many guests or customers that when they go in one of our outlets, they feel something, different, something. So this is also what we try to bring.
I'm sure you brought that into that, right? You brought that. Do you cook?
Very bad.
Well, I must confess, the cook at our home is me. I really cook.
Okay.
But Christine takes care of everything else, because when you want to cook and you have guests, somebody has to invite them, somebody has to decorate the table, somebody has to take care of the music, etc. So we have a separation of tasks. It's not the traditional one, women in the kitchen, husband doing other things. At our home, and I enjoy. And I like. Yes.
I used to find baking a stress reliever. Because you have to be so perfect at doing it. If you make one thing wrong, and when the children are growing up, you do all this. You experiment and stuff like that. And in fact, I used to make trifle from scratch. I still do trifle pudding. I would make it from scratch, and there was I don't know whether you've read Veer Sangvi. He's
Yes, yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
he's
yes,
what?
yes,
yes, yes.
And
And
then
he
I will
wrote
tell you
one.
something about Veer Sangvi.
So he wrote about my trifle, and he said the best you get in Delhi is at
Oh.
Smita's table. So, and I was like, and then I remember my family saying, "Really, yours is the best." It's like, no, he was being kind. He was very
Yeah.
sweet, but yeah, it's like that. Yes, go ahead and tell me about
No,
Veer.
no, about Veer. You know, when you start a business, we now speak so matter-of-factly as if everything is easy, etc. It's not. We know that. It's difficult. You have challenges. You have everything, etc. And when we started operations in March of 2011. And towards the end of the year, we receive a recognition plaque. It's no particular event, no particular competition, etc. And Veer Sangvi had created a plate praising the quality and the work of l'Opéra. This is one of the most precious pieces that you find in my office. Veer Sangvi is the best bakery and pastry in Delhi. And it is, I will send you privately a picture of that. It is
Nice.
remarkable. It is so. We remain ever grateful because it was a recognition, and coming from somebody like Veer Sangvi.
In that. But you were
that's-
talking about people who are not familiar with some of the products. Veer, of course, is a widely traveled
Yes.
person, and he would know, a mediocre croissant from a well-made one. But there are also Indians who haven't heard of it. I don't know whether you've seen this, but there's an influencer. Now he's called an influencer, but he makes these reels, and so now nobody calls, like in social media, they call croissant as Prashant.
Oh, his name is Prashant.
No, his name is not Prashant, but he puts these pictures, and there's a voice which asks him, "What is this?" So he says the wrong thing always, because he's this, gives this
Provocateur, yeah.
village bumpkin kind of a thing. I say, "What is this?" So the word comes back, and he says croissant. So he says croissant, Prashant.
Prashant.
It's like not heard. So now it's a joke, because I used to keep tweeting about today's the day I'm going to have my coffee with croissant, because I just love doing that. And so somebody said, "No, that's Prashant." That's Prashant. But so you want to go beyond Delhi, I'm sure, at some point of time, where there are people who come from outside Delhi who want to go to these bakeries in Delhi. There are places like in Tamil Nadu, there's this Iyengar bakeries, which are very famous. People used to go to these because there was a special kind. In Calcutta, there are bakeries which are like over 100 years old. People go there for a specific kind of, I'm not going to name them because it's not a sponsored show, but everybody goes for specific things. Do you think that the products that you're making has a pan-India appeal now? And do you want to go to other places other than Delhi?
The simple answer is yes. Because, as we all know, India is evolving. It's tremendously developing. And this development is not limited just to Delhi or any other place, that particular place. And we do have a very ambitious development plan, which is cluster-based. So we call the Delhi NCR one cluster, where we have a central production kitchen, which can serve up to 25, 30 outlets. We are now close to 22, and we will add another 10 or so. So then this will be completing the Delhi cluster as such. Now we have 9 other clusters in other parts of India. Just to give, we have Mumbai North, we have Mumbai South, which goes up to Goa. We have Kolkata, we have Chennai, we have Hyderabad, we have I don't know Rajasthan, we have the Tri-Cities, etc. So it's really, we have Bangalore, obviously. So we will cover all these places. Each time we will have a central kitchen which serve other areas. I would not exaggerate to say at least once a week we get calls of people who want to take our brand to these and many other cities.
Okay.
They come. Now, their idea is that we would franchise. But we have made the experience that if we want to keep the purity, the quality, even if it is more expensive, if it is we need more capital, we should do it ourselves. So all our expansion plan over the next 5 years will take us to about, 300 outlets in India and also about 100 or more overseas. This will be also done under the name and by L'Opéra itself.
Nice.
Yes, yes.
So Kazem
Yes.
is a total businessman.
Yes.
But 10 years ago, did you ever think that your brand would be something which would be part of an Oxford MBA program and a study? Did you think that? And as an expat, do you feel that that you did the right decision of living and working in India and building a brand in India?
Yes, yes. In fact, I mean, the fact that we are here and we live in India, of course, is also because of l'Opéra. And at the beginning, we didn't know at all that it will take that dimension. And even we said we'll go for 1 year and we'll see. Maybe then we go back to France, etc. So this question of no, we didn't at all. We didn't know that. But me, also as a sociologist and anthropologist, I'm very interested in the fact that we have created, well, there is the business, of course, it has to be a business, but we have created a company with value, with core values. And these are, for instance, as excellence in quality, as gender equality between, the personnel, that the staff has to work in teamwork and respect of each other, or courtesy, or consultation. So we have a list of 10 different values. And my interest in, I can say that it's really to create also something which remain beyond the product itself. The product is wonderful. We love it. I mean, everybody love. I think people appreciate the place, the outlets. But what we like, and this is my link with the people, even with our staff, with our colleagues, there is a special link with the people, that they are working with us. So this is, I will say, my interest. But no, I never thought that one day we will be in India and one day we will try to create something which hopefully will last.
Okay, you've been reading newspaper reports, and there's even a book and things about people from India who are frustrated with the business conditions, and they say, working in Europe or working in America, it's easier to do business in those countries. You've lived and worked in so many countries and continents. What is like the whole idea of ease of doing business in India and the ease of living in India? Could you tell me a little bit about that? Is it easy at all now as compared to maybe 10 years or 15 years or even 20 years back?
This question is very complex. It's complex. Anybody who thinks that it is easy to live and prosper in America, they don't understand what they are talking. Living in an ultra-competitive environment where material gain is more or less the only thing think about and work about. This is really, it's not an easy. I was based in the United States. I appreciate meritocracy. I appreciate that. But I would really not call it an easy life. That's one thing. About the question of, it comes back to what you want from life. If we are self-centric, if we are egoistic, if we want just to show off, yes, some other places may be easier. But if you want to leave something after you have lived your, God willing, 100 years, that something lasts, that you have made a difference. It's very difficult to make a difference in any of the Western countries. Whereas India, and that's what I encourage all young people, here there is still so much to be done. If you are reasonably hardworking, if you are honest, if you don't want to take shortcuts, this is the El Dorado, not just because of for making money, but to make a difference, to be something positive, to contribute to the society. I personally don't understand. Yes, I understand. It's better you go to Dubai, you pay less taxes and those things. Obviously, I understand how it works. But being here, training, we have consecutive employee numbers. We have reached 1,000. It means 1,000 people. They went through the training of l'Opéra. And hopefully with our next plan, we will train another 3,000 to 4,000 people. Imagine what this will mean about the French tradition of baking and pastry making. Now, you take that to any other area. You can take to services. You can take that to manufacturing. You can take that making parts for the future Apple phones, etc. I mean, you don't have this. The life in Western countries, in my own country, France, it's tough for young people. You have people have fantastic education, but the number of jobs are limited. And they're being even more limited with the advent of AI and automation and robots, etc. So the ideal place, yes, if you want to work only 35 hours a week and have easy, but then what is life? I mean, you get bored after some time. But here, it's the challenge. You have everything to do. You have now ease of business. I have worked really in 60 different countries. The ease, it's relative. You see here, yes, you have to get so many licenses, you have to wait for that and this and that, etc. But if we wanted to do what we did here in India, if I want to do that in France, I would need at least 5-6 times more capital. Nobody sees you. If you want to do a bakery and pastry, you have to spend millions on just advertisement and marketing. You have to pay, the salaries are so high. So what we could do with our limited resources in India would have never been possible to do unless you are Bill Gates or you are, I don't know, you are a genius or you are, I don't know, whatever, Jeff Bezos, etc. But those are few. The majority of people, they are contributing to making the others rich, etc. So in my opinion, I never worked in life for money personally. I have great satisfaction in building something from nothing.
Nice.
For
Very
me,
nice.
this is the satisfaction. And I personally believe this should be also the ambition of young people to be. But yes, read what happened in Japan, read what happened in Taiwan, read what happened in South Korea, what happened in now Vietnam, right? Yes, 1 or 2 generations must sacrifice. If the first generation wants to reap immediately within 5 years or 10 years the results of their work, become millionaires, retire at 30, it's not compatible. It's not compatible. We can never then put into practice the vision of the government, of the prime minister who wants to have the Viksit Bharat. We need young Indians who are accepting to work hard, to put in the 14, 15 hours, to accept, to create, to risk, to make startups, etc. And to be satisfied when they make a difference. They put the print on the society instead of just having a big bank account.
Make a difference in people's lives.
I mean, who cares if your car is made of solid gold or just steel? I mean, so what? You see, so again, this has to do with your values and the way you see life. I don't know. It was a long answer to a short question.
No, when you ask about easiness of business, I will. But our life. No, I said about if our life is easy, probably not. It's not so easy. I mean, there are also challenges, etc. But
sure.
what I like, I can say emotionally, I'm very much connected, with people, with Indians, and that this is what it keep us, I will say, in India, in Delhi. For instance, we left a few months back our apartment in one of the colony, and when we left, our neighbors were crying. I did also. And then when we arrived in our new colony, a person who is an important person, just neighbor, he sent us food.
He was a
for
former
the first,
Supreme Court judge.
He said, "What do you want for the first day?"
The first day, we were there.
He came and welcomed us, and then he said, "What do you want for dinner? My cook will provide this for you." And then a few 1 or 2 weeks after, even the neighbor in front. So these kind of emotions, and which I think is very particular to India, and also our staff, friends. We have, of course, social life is very but we have very good friends, Indian friends. So all these it's I will say soften the challenge we could have in India.
True. Finally, I just want to ask you this one question, or rather it's a comment on society also, that I read now that there are many state governments which are saying that, when you talk about jobs and, people wanting jobs and wanting skill development to happen, and they said that, baking is one of the options. And I was surprised. I said, first time I'm seeing governments talking about baking as a job option, because I've never heard of that. Like you hear basket making or sewing or knitting or shawl weaving, these kind of things, or sari making. These kind of things are skill development. And the first time I saw that baking, because you don't need to be highly educated. So women can get into it. If it's taught, they can bake and provide, and in remote parts of the country also they can do that, because now electricity is available, so refrigeration should not be an issue. So I saw that. So I think job creation is something that can happen if more such bakeries open around the country, and it will make an impact if more women are coming into the workforce. Yes. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, yes.
Right?
I think this is
this is very true. This is very true. And as I mentioned, at least if we are capable of delivering on our plans, we are creating a school for training bakers and pastry and all the personnel that we want. We are also very closely working with the government. Actually, there were initiatives, we were approached and they offered support. So hopefully this school will be there within the next 12 months.
Okay.
And we will train. And yes, this is a very, very job intensive, labor intensive area of activity, and when with the increasing demand and formalization of the sector, we hope to be able to create another 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 jobs within the next 5 years.
Lovely, and that means so many families will benefit from.
We usually multiply by 5.
Yes,
at least easily.
And now more and more women realize that a double income family means you can provide more for your children, right?
We had. Just picking up on that, we have a driver. It took us how many years? So we finally managed to convince that his wife has to also work. Now she's so happy. So she's happy because in the modern world, in a city like Delhi, how can you live from a single income?
Yes.
So what you say is so true. And I'm totally convinced.
Totally convinced of that. It's been lovely talking to you. Absolute pleasure, and wishing you all the success. And I'm sure the decision that you have taken and your life is an inspiration for many expats who live in this country to prosper and take the story forward.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
Thank you for watching or listening to this edition of the ANI podcast with Smita Prakash. Do like or subscribe on whichever channel you have seen this or heard this. Namaste, Jai Hind. This episode is powered by easemytrip.com. Click here to watch the previous episodes.